Far away, in a part of the galaxy that humans had never visited or even fully mapped, there was a small but intelligent civilization living on a planet that had always seemed safe to its inhabitants. The sky above was often painted with streaks of red and gold from the nearby suns, and the oceans reflected their colors like shimmering mirrors. For generations, the people had lived peacefully, focusing on building cities, creating art, and exploring their own world. But that peace was about to shatter. A threat, far beyond anything they had faced before, was approaching their planet. It was not something they could fight with the weapons and defenses they had. They had knowledge, intelligence, and courage. But this new danger was overwhelming, a force that could destroy everything they had built, everything they loved. As the days passed, panic slowly crept into their cities. Leaders called emergency meetings. Scientists ran calculations and simulations, and families huddled together, hoping that somehow, by some miracle, they would survive. Every scenario they examined led to the same conclusion. Without outside help, their civilization would be wiped out. The young, the elderly, and everyone in between felt the tension. Parents whispered reassurances to their children, though inside they were terrified. Scholars and strategists debated endlessly, trying to find a solution, any solution, that could save their people. After days of deliberation, the leaders came to a difficult decision. Their planet was alone in this part of space. They had no allies, no way to call for help in conventional terms. They had advanced communication technology, but it was limited to their nearby star systems. There was no one nearby strong enough to intervene. But there was one desperate measure left, something they had learned from studying the stars. Ancient signals sent across the cosmos by civilizations far older and more advanced. These signals were known as SOS transmissions, calls for help sent into the vastness of space in the hope that some other intelligent life might intercept them. It was a risky move because they could not be sure anyone would hear them, but it was their only hope. They decided to send a message, a carefully coded distress signal designed to reach civilizations capable of understanding and responding to it. The scientists worked around the clock, crafting the message. It had to be precise, but also urgent enough to convey the seriousness of their situation. Every symbol, every pattern in the signal was meticulously calculated. They included information about the threat, the location of their planet, and the potential consequences if help did not arrive. It was a message born of fear, but also of hope, a hope that somewhere out there, someone would receive it, understand it, and take action. They sent the signal into space with a mixture of dread and anticipation. For a moment, as the signal left their planet, there was silence. They could only wait, and waiting felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, on Earth, the signal was not entirely unnoticed. Far away in a secretive observatory, a group of scientists monitored the skies for unusual activity. Most of their work involved tracking distant stars, monitoring cosmic events, and sometimes picking up faint signals from deep space. One day, their instruments detected something extraordinary, a signal unlike anything they had seen before. At first they thought it was interference, a glitch in their equipment, but repeated attempts confirmed that the signal was real. It had a complexity and urgency that immediately captured their attention. This was not a random noise from the cosmos. It was structured, intelligent, and purposeful. As the scientists analyzed the signal, it became clear that it was a distress call. Its origin was extremely distant, far beyond the usual limits of human communication. The language was unfamiliar, made of sequences that did not match any known pattern from Earth or from natural cosmic phenomena. Yet, the signal contained recognizable mathematical and physical markers, clues that proved it was created by an intelligent civilization. The scientists shared the data with the military and governmental authorities, who quickly realized the magnitude of what had been found. This was not just a routine signal. It was a plea for help from another world, a world in grave danger. As the news spread among those with security clearance, debates erupted. Some argued that it was too risky to respond. What if the civilization was hostile? What if the message was a trap or a test? Others countered that ignoring it could be a moral failure. And what if this was truly a desperate call for survival? The arguments were intense, with officials, scientists, and military strategists weighing the unknown risks against the potential obligation to assist. It was a decision that could not be taken lightly. Meanwhile, the alien civilization continued to monitor the cosmos, hoping that someone, anyone, had heard their signal. Each day, the tension grew. Children played under skies that seemed brighter than ever, unaware of the invisible threat approaching. Adults went about their lives, but every so often they would stop and glance at the stars, as if hoping for a sign that help was on the way. The leaders continued to pray that their message had reached a civilization strong enough to intervene. Finally, after what seemed like endless waiting, there were signs of response. Scientists on Earth, working with urgency, had begun decoding parts of the signal. They realized that the aliens had provided coordinates and details about the threat they were facing. The message was more than a simple SOS. It was a blueprint for understanding the danger, a guide for how anyone responding could act effectively. This revelation added both hope and pressure. Humanity now had the ability to help, but the responsibility was immense. The choices made in the coming hours would determine not only the fate of the alien civilization but also potentially alter humanity's own place in the galaxy. During this time, the alien people were unaware of the developments on Earth. They continued their preparations for the worst, reinforcing defenses, evacuating vulnerable areas, and organizing emergency plans. They knew their time was limited and that each passing day increased the likelihood of catastrophe. The mixture of fear, hope, and determination drove them forward. Every decision was critical. Every mistake could be fatal. They were trapped between the unknowns of the approaching threat and the uncertain hope that their call had been received. The moment was tense and fragile. Across light years of space, the fates of two civilizations began to intertwine. One sent a desperate plea from the brink of annihilation, and the other, entirely unaware of the specifics, began to piece together the reality of that plea. This was the beginning of a story that would stretch across stars, a story of danger, courage, and the profound consequences of listening to a call for help. At this point, both civilizations were unknowingly on the same path, moving toward an encounter that neither could have fully anticipated, a moment that would change everything. In the end, the first part of this tale is about urgency and hope, about a civilization at the edge of despair sending a message into the infinite void, hoping that someone powerful, someone capable, would hear it. It is about fear, patience, and the fragile thread of faith that binds all intelligent beings when faced with overwhelming odds. The signal, a simple yet profound act, becomes the spark that sets in motion events far beyond the imagination of those who sent it, and those who would eventually respond. When the SOS signal reached Earth, it was not just another blip on the radar. The moment the data was confirmed to be genuine, an unusual tension gripped the highest offices of government and military leaders. This was not a situation that could be handled casually. For decades, humans had imagined life beyond their planet, and many had dreamed of making first contact. But now, that dream had turned into a reality with stakes far higher than anyone could have anticipated. It was no longer a theoretical question of curiosity or science fiction. It was a real decision that could affect not only Earth but a distant alien civilization. On the verge of destruction, the initial reaction among scientists was a mix of excitement and anxiety. They pored over the message again and again, trying to decode its nuances, to understand what the aliens were truly saying. The signal was complex, more advanced than anything humans had ever received. It included mathematical codes, schematics of their world, and, most importantly, details about the threat they were facing. It was clear from the patterns that this civilization was intelligent, technologically capable, and highly organized, but they were not powerful enough to withstand the imminent disaster alone. Each time the message was studied, the urgency became more apparent. At the same time, military strategists began to weigh the risks. Responding to an alien SOS was unprecedented. They asked themselves countless questions. What kind of help was required? How far away was the civilization? Could humanity safely reach them? Was there a chance that the threat the aliens faced could also endanger Earth? Some argued for immediate action, insisting that humanity had a responsibility to respond to a civilization in distress. Others were cautious, warning that rushing in without understanding could lead to disaster. The debates were intense, with reports and analysis flying between military commanders, scientists, and government officials. Every scenario seemed to carry its own risk, and every risk seemed monumental. As discussions continued, the people who had the authority to act realized one thing. This was not just a matter of sending a diplomatic team or a few cargo ships with supplies. The scale of the threat, as hinted in the signal, suggested that conventional methods of assistance would be inadequate. If they wanted to truly help, they would have to respond with overwhelming force and extraordinary capability. And that meant revealing one of Earth's most closely guarded secrets: the existence of a fleet that had been developed in utmost secrecy, a fleet designed for situations so dangerous that the general public was never meant to know about it. This fleet was legendary within certain circles on Earth. Though rumors about it had circulated in science and defense communities for decades, it was the product of decades of technological advancement, secret programs, and careful planning. It consisted of ships equipped with the most advanced weaponry and defense systems ever created, capable of traveling faster than anything previously imagined, and surviving conditions that would destroy ordinary vessels. The crews were not ordinary astronauts or military officers. They were elite, trained for the most dangerous scenarios, with the skills, knowledge, and discipline to handle unimaginable challenges. Activating this fleet was not a decision made lightly. It was considered only in cases of the highest threat to human life or civilization. The moment the decision was made to respond, it sent shockwaves through the inner circles of Earth's leadership. It was a bold, unprecedented choice. This was not merely about helping another civilization. It was about humanity stepping onto a galactic stage and demonstrating both capability and resolve. The leaders recognized that the risks were enormous. Deploying the fleet would expose Earth's existence, revealing technological and military secrets to the wider cosmos. But they also understood that hesitation or inaction could mean the complete destruction of the alien world, and perhaps the loss of an opportunity to form a crucial alliance with another intelligent species. As preparations began, The urgency of the mission became palpable. Every crew member selected for the fleet underwent additional briefings and training. Engineers worked around the clock to ensure the ships were fully operational, with every system checked and double-checked. Weapons were loaded, supplies were stocked, and navigation routes were plotted for a journey that would take them far beyond known space. Scientists analyzed the alien data meticulously, seeking clues about the most efficient way to intervene. Everyone involved understood that this mission could define humanity's role in the galaxy forever, and there was no room for error. Meanwhile, back on the alien planet, life continued under the shadow of impending catastrophe. The civilization that had sent the SOS could not see or understand what was happening on Earth for them. Every passing hour was a gamble with survival. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to build defenses, evacuate vulnerable populations, and fortify their cities. Leaders organized the remaining forces, coordinating a response to the looming threat. But despite their efforts, there was a growing awareness that their world might not survive without external assistance. Fear mixed with hope, and every moment spent waiting for an answer was a moment of unbearable tension. On Earth, Signal had also sparked a wider debate among the global scientific community. Philosophers, ethicists, and policymakers discussed the moral responsibility of responding to a civilization in distress. Some argued that humanity could not remain passive in the face of potential genocide, even if it was happening light years away. Others cautioned that responding could entangle Earth in conflicts far beyond its understanding, and that unknown dangers could be waiting for any civilization that answered the call. Despite the disagreements, the decision to act had already been made, and the next step was execution. The activation of the fleet marked a turning point in human history. As ships were deployed from hidden bases, their sheer scale and power were unlike anything ever seen. The fleet's commanders coordinated movements with precision, balancing speed and safety while preparing for the unknown threats that lay ahead. Engineers and scientists monitored alien communications and environmental data, adapting the mission plan in real time. The entire operation was a delicate balance between caution and urgency, a complex choreography that demanded absolute focus and commitment from every human involved. For the crew members aboard the ships, the journey began with a mixture of awe and trepidation. They were venturing into a part of the galaxy that no human had ever reached before, toward a civilization they had never seen and a threat they could only imagine. The training and preparation they had undergone were extensive, but nothing could fully prepare them for the uncertainty and danger that lay ahead. Every moment of the journey required vigilance, skill, and an unwavering commitment to the mission. As the fleet moved closer to the alien world, the leaders on Earth continued to analyze the SOS signal. They discovered subtle details they had missed, initially hints about the enemy forces, warnings about environmental hazards, and clues to the aliens' culture and technology. Every piece of information became critical, shaping the fleet's strategy and guiding their decisions. The more the humans learned, the more they realized the gravity of the situation. This was not merely a rescue mission, it was an intervention that required precision, intelligence, and decisive action. During this period, humanity also began to grasp the significance of what they were doing. The SOS had effectively brought two civilizations into contact in a way that would leave a lasting impact. For the humans, it was a test of their technology, courage, and capacity for responsibility. For the aliens, it was a lifeline, a fragile hope that someone powerful and willing had heard their desperate plea. The unfolding events were a reminder of the interconnectedness of intelligent life, even across unimaginable distances. As the fleet neared the alien system, tension reached a peak. Everyone involved, from the highest-ranking commanders to the youngest crew members, felt the weight of what was to come. This was a moment that could define history, a moment when humanity would either rise to the challenge or falter in the face of unprecedented uncertainty. The SOS had set the stage, and now the response would determine not only the fate of the alien civilization but also the role of humanity in the greater universe. It is about humanity recognizing a call for help and deciding to act with courage, power, and precision. It is about the preparation, the debates, and the careful planning required to respond to an unimaginable crisis. It is about the moment when hope begins to cross the vast distances of space, carried by human determination, expertise, and the will to protect life beyond their own world. This is the story of how Earth, faced with the unknown, chose to step forward, preparing to meet the most dangerous challenge in the galaxy and proving that humanity could rise to the occasion when the stakes were nothing less than survival itself. Asterisk. The fleet had left Earth's orbit and was now traveling through the vast, silent expanse of space. For the crew members aboard, the journey was both exhilarating and terrifying. Every person knew that they were part of something unprecedented, something that had never happened before in human history. They were venturing into the unknown, crossing light years to reach a distant civilization that had called out for help. The weight of responsibility pressed on them, but so did a sense of purpose. Each member of the crew understood that they carried not just advanced technology, but the hope of an entire alien civilization, a people who might not survive without their intervention. Space itself posed countless challenges. Even with advanced navigation systems, the fleet had to move carefully to avoid cosmic hazards, massive asteroid fields, volatile nebulae, and gravitational anomalies that could crush or tear apart the ships if they were not approached correctly. Engineers and navigators worked tirelessly, calculating trajectories and adjusting courses in real time. Every decision mattered. A single mistake could destroy a ship or delay the fleet, reducing the chances of reaching the aliens in time. Yet, despite the danger, the crew remained focused, their training and discipline keeping them steady. As the days and weeks passed, the human crews began to feel the psychological weight of their mission. Space travel over such distances was isolating. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, and the alien world they were heading toward remained a distant point on their maps. They could not see it, could not hear it, and could only imagine the plight of the civilization that had sent the SOS. Some crew members turned to their training, immersing themselves in simulations and tasks to maintain focus. Others wrote messages or kept journals, recording their thoughts and fears. In quiet moments, they gazed out at the cosmos, wondering what awaited them at the other end of their journey. Communication between the fleet and Earth was continuous but limited. Signals took time to travel across such vast distances, and delays meant that the fleet often had to make critical decisions on its own. The commanders understood this reality and had prepared for autonomy, giving themselves the ability to respond to threats or unforeseen events without waiting for instructions. This was both empowering and terrifying. Each step closer to the alien world meant facing unknown dangers without the certainty of support from home. The responsibility was immense, and it required courage, skill, and a willingness to act decisively even in complete uncertainty. The fleet's scientists and analysts worked around the clock, studying the SOS signal and extracting every possible piece of information. They had learned that the alien civilization was advanced enough to survive in its own solar system, but it lacked the power to confront the threat directly. They also discovered hints about the enemy, a force that was aggressive, technologically superior, and relentless. The more the humans learned, the clearer it became that this was not going to be a simple rescue mission. It would be a confrontation, a battle that required not just strength, but strategy and adaptability. Each piece of intelligence added pressure to the crews but also prepared them for what lay ahead. For the crew members, the journey was not just a physical challenge but a mental and emotional one. The isolation, the pressure, and the unknown combined to test every aspect of their resilience. Officers conducted regular briefings and psychological checks, ensuring that the mental well-being of the crew remained intact. Recreational activities were provided when possible. From virtual simulations to communal gatherings, these moments were brief, but they allowed the humans to maintain a sense of normalcy amid the extraordinary mission. They knew that mental sharpness was as critical as the advanced technology surrounding them. As the fleet moved deeper into space, the alien system grew closer in their simulations and star maps. Astronomers aboard the ships calculated its location precisely, while strategists analyzed potential threats along the route. They simulated different scenarios: enemy ambushes, environmental hazards, and even unexpected interactions with other unknown civilizations. The fleet had to prepare for anything. They upgraded defenses, tested weapons systems, and ran drills continuously. Every member knew that the unknown enemy could be watching, and the human crews had to be ready for every possible contingency. Despite the challenges, moments of awe punctuated the journey. The crew witnessed phenomena that few humans had ever seen: massive gas clouds glowing in alien colors, stars forming in distant nebulae, and planets orbiting suns that were billions of years old. These sights reminded them of the vastness and beauty of the universe, reinforcing the importance of their mission. They were not just fighting for survival, they were stepping into the broader tapestry of life across the galaxy. The contrast between the serenity of the cosmos and the urgency of their mission was striking, and it deepened the sense of purpose among the crews. As the fleet drew nearer to the alien world, the intensity of the mission increased. Sensors began detecting subtle signals from the planet, faint electromagnetic patterns, and environmental readings that hinted at the struggle occurring on the surface. The humans now had a clearer picture of the stakes. Cities were under threat, populations were evacuating, and the enemy forces were advancing with relentless efficiency. Each hour counted. The SOS had been more than a call for help, it had been a countdown to disaster. The humans knew that if they did not arrive in time, the entire civilization could be wiped out. The crews also had to navigate the challenges of coordination. With dozens of ships in the fleet, each moving at incredible speeds and equipped with sophisticated technology, synchronization was critical. Commanders issued orders, and each ship adjusted its course and systems in response. The tiniest error in timing or alignment could result in collisions or miscommunications, jeopardizing the entire mission. Yet, despite the pressure, the crews maintained remarkable precision. Every action was deliberate, every decision calculated. They were professionals at the highest level, carrying out a mission that had no precedent. During the journey, the humans began to understand the magnitude of what the aliens were facing. Through the analysis of the SOS and environmental scans, they learned that the alien civilization was technologically advanced in ways that were impressive, but it had limitations. Its weapons, systems, while clever, were insufficient against the approaching threat. Its cities, though sophisticated, were vulnerable to the enemy's power. This knowledge steeled the humans' resolve. They realized that they were not just observers, they were active participants who could change the outcome. Their decisions, actions, and skills could mean life or death for millions of beings. As the alien system approached in the simulations, the fleet began to make tactical preparations. Weapons were brought online, shields were tested, and defensive measures were reinforced. Strategists reviewed potential landing or engagement zones, anticipating where the enemy might strike or where intervention would be most effective. Even as they prepared for combat, there was an understanding that precision, intelligence, and careful planning were more important than brute force. The humans were about to intervene in a complex situation, where a single mistake could have catastrophic consequences. Throughout the journey, communication among crew members was constant but measured. Officers encouraged collaboration, and every team member's expertise was utilized to its fullest. Engineers, navigators, weapons specialists, and scientists all worked together seamlessly. They had trained for years for missions like this, yet nothing could fully replicate the real experience of heading toward an alien civilization under imminent threat. Each day brought new challenges, and each challenge was met with determination, courage, and skill. The journey also brought unexpected lessons. The humans observed cosmic phenomena that challenged their understanding of physics and astronomy. They encountered anomalies that required rapid problem-solving and adaptability. These experiences reinforced the importance of flexibility and innovation, reminding the crew that even with the most advanced technology, human intelligence and ingenuity were critical. The SOS had set in motion a chain of events that required the best of both human skill and technology to succeed. As the fleet neared the alien system, the sense of anticipation and tension reached its peak. The alien civilization, unaware of the approaching help, continued to struggle against its overwhelming threat. Every hour that the humans traveled brought them closer to a critical point, a moment when action would be necessary to prevent annihilation. The crews understood that their mission was no longer about preparation or analysis. The time for intervention was almost at hand. In the end, the third part of the story is about the journey itself, the physical, mental, and emotional challenges of traveling across unimaginable distances to reach a civilization in desperate need. It is about the crew's courage, intelligence, and determination, and about how preparation, discipline, and hope guide them through the unknown. It is about stepping into a universe full of danger and wonder, carrying the weight of life on distant worlds, and knowing that the next actions could change the fate of an entire civilization. This phase of the story sets the stage for confrontation, highlighting the human qualities that make them uniquely capable of rising to the challenge, even in the face of the unknown. The fleet had finally arrived at the alien system, and for the first time, the humans could see the planet in all its detail. From orbit, it looked fragile and beautiful, with vast oceans reflecting the light of a distant sun and sprawling cities dotted across continents. But beneath this serene appearance, the reality was far darker. The planet was under siege. Sensors picked up signs of widespread destruction, massive explosions, energy surges, and the remnants of battles that had already taken place. Smoke rose from cities, and entire regions appeared abandoned or decimated. The urgency of the mission became painfully clear. The aliens' situation was far worse than the humans had imagined from the SOS signal alone. As the fleet entered orbit, the alien inhabitants looked up at the skies in awe and confusion. They had no idea who or what was arriving. From their perspective, massive ships appeared like moving stars, unlike anything they had ever seen. Their panic and fear began to mix with curiosity and hope. Some watched from the safety of shelters, while others attempted to send signals, not knowing if they would reach the newcomers. The humans were careful to broadcast their intentions in a way the aliens could understand, using patterns and frequencies that matched parts of the SOS signal. Slowly, recognition dawned. The humans were here to help. The fleet's commanders quickly assessed the situation. Intelligence from the SOS signal had provided some information, but the reality on the ground was more complex. Enemy forces were far more numerous and aggressive than anticipated. They had weapons capable of massive destruction, and their approach was strategic and relentless. Human strategists realized that this intervention would not be simple. It would require a combination of precision strikes, defensive maneuvers, and careful coordination with the alien forces, who, while brave and intelligent, were limited in their ability to fight such an advanced enemy. The humans began immediate operations. Advanced drones and reconnaissance ships were sent ahead to gather detailed intelligence, scanning enemy positions and movements. Every piece of data was relayed back to the fleet's central command, where analysts processed it in real time. Strategies were adjusted continuously as the situation evolved. The goal was clear: protect the alien civilization, neutralize the enemy threat, and minimize collateral damage. The humans knew that a single misstep could have catastrophic consequences, not only for the aliens but also for the credibility and survival of humanity's fleet. As the first engagement began, the alien forces were both terrified and amazed. Humans moved with a level of coordination and efficiency that the aliens had never witnessed. Energy beams, precision strikes, and rapid maneuvers combined in ways that the enemy could not anticipate. It was overwhelming, even from a distance. The humans were not reckless. Every attack was calculated, aimed at disabling enemy assets while avoiding unnecessary harm to the planet below. The aliens watched in awe as what they had hoped would be assistance turned into a display of overwhelming capability on the planet's surface. The enemy advanced relentlessly, but the arrival of the humans shifted the balance of power. Cities that were moments from destruction suddenly had a chance to survive. Evacuation routes that were previously blocked became accessible. The alien inhabitants, still frightened, began to organize themselves more effectively, inspired by the humans' presence. They saw for the first time that they were not alone, that a force capable of turning the tide had arrived. Morale, which had been near zero, began to rise, and hope began to take root in the hearts of those who had feared the worst. Despite the successes, the battle was far from easy. The enemy adapted quickly, attempting to counter the human strategies with unpredictable tactics. They moved swiftly across orbit and planet, targeting vulnerable points and exploiting weaknesses wherever they could. Each encounter required the humans to respond immediately, often improvising solutions in the heat of the moment. The combination of high stakes, complex enemy tactics, and the need to protect civilian populations made every decision critical. Human crews worked tirelessly, relying on their training, intelligence, and instinct to navigate the chaos of battle. As the battle continued, it became clear to the aliens that these humans were unlike any beings they had encountered. They were not only powerful but also intelligent, disciplined, and adaptable. They did not act with mindless aggression. Their actions were purposeful, designed to protect life while neutralizing threats. Alien leaders began to coordinate with human commanders, sharing knowledge and resources. This cooperation, though tentative at first, began to create a unified front against the enemy, blending human technological superiority with alien understanding of their own world. The humans also began to learn from the aliens, even as they provided overwhelming force. They relied on local knowledge to navigate terrain, predict enemy movements, and understand cultural and strategic priorities. Every insight allowed them to strike more effectively, avoid unnecessary damage, and build trust with the alien population. This partnership, born out of desperation and necessity, became one of the most critical factors in the battle's progression. Together, they formed a force far stronger than either could have been alone. Throughout the conflict, the scale of destruction inflicted by the enemy became apparent. Entire regions had been devastated, and millions of alien lives had been put at risk. The humans, aware of the stakes, acted with both urgency and restraint. Advanced shielding systems protected cities from bombardment, while rapid response teams intervened wherever civilians were endangered. Every effort was made to minimize casualties, even as the humans unleashed the full capabilities of their fleet against the enemy. The contrast between human efficiency and enemy recklessness was stark, and it became clear why the fleet had been described as the most dangerous in history. As the battle reached its climax, human strategies began to dominate the battlefield. Enemy forces, though formidable, were unable to withstand the combination of advanced technology, precise coordination, and adaptive tactics. Ships that had seemed invincible were disabled, supply lines were cut, and enemy morale began to collapse. The alien forces, inspired by the humans' actions, pressed forward with renewed courage. Where moments before hope had seemed distant, victory now appeared achievable. The tide had turned, and the alien civilization could finally see a path to survival. The humans were meticulous in their approach, ensuring that every action strengthened the alien defense while weakening the enemy. They implemented defensive perimeters, cleared escape routes, and engaged in targeted strikes that neutralized the most dangerous threats. The aliens watched with amazement as ships moved with uncanny precision. Shields absorbed attacks that would have obliterated anything else, and coordinated maneuvers rendered the enemy nearly powerless. The SOS that had seemed like a desperate call for help had not only summoned aid, it had summoned a force capable of changing the fate of an entire planet. As the battle drew to a close, the humans helped the aliens stabilize their cities and secure key regions. The enemy was defeated or forced to retreat, unable to continue their assault. Survivors began to emerge from shelters, cautiously exploring areas that had been threatened or damaged. Hope, once fragile, now began to spread across the planet. The humans, exhausted but vigilant, continued to monitor for any remaining threats, ensuring that the alien civilization could begin the long process of recovery. In the aftermath, the aliens began to understand the true magnitude of the human intervention. These were beings whose power and intelligence exceeded anything they had imagined. They realized that the fleet they had summoned was not just a military force but a symbol of determination, skill, and the willingness to act decisively in the face of overwhelming danger. The SOS that had been sent across the stars had accomplished far more than survival. It had forged a connection between two civilizations, a bond built on courage, trust, and mutual respect. The humans, in turn, reflected on what they had achieved. They had intervened in a complex situation, faced an unknown enemy, and acted decisively to protect life far from their own planet. The mission tested their abilities, challenged their limits, and proved the value of preparation, intelligence, and adaptability. For the crew members, the experience was transformative, leaving them with a sense of accomplishment, humility, and a deeper understanding of the universe and their place within it. It shows how intelligence, discipline, and advanced technology can combine to protect life and turn the tide in seemingly hopeless situations. It also demonstrates the power of cooperation, the importance of preparation, and the way in which hope can be restored even in the darkest moments. The SOS that had seemed like a desperate plea had summoned the most dangerous fleet in history, and in doing so, it had saved a civilization, reshaped the battlefield, and forever altered the story of two worlds. Asterisk, with the enemy finally defeated and the immediate threat to the alien civilization neutralized, a cautious sense of relief settled over the planet. The alien inhabitants, who had lived through days of terror and uncertainty, began to slowly emerge from their shelters. They walked among the ruins of cities and towns, observing the destruction left behind by both the invaders and the battles waged to stop them. Smoke still rose from certain regions, and emergency sirens wailed in places where infrastructure had been damaged. Yet, despite the devastation, the people felt something they had not experienced in weeks: hope. The arrival of the humans and their fleet had changed everything. They had faced the unimaginable, and now survival was within reach. The humans did not leave immediately. Even though the primary threat had been neutralized, they understood that their work was not complete. The alien civilization was vulnerable in many ways. Their defenses were weakened, resources were depleted, and their people were traumatized. Human crews coordinated with alien leaders to stabilize key areas, rebuild essential systems, and ensure that remaining enemy forces could not launch a surprise attack. Advanced engineering drones repaired communication networks, power grids, and water systems, while medical teams assisted in treating the wounded. The alien inhabitants, though exhausted, worked alongside the humans, forming a partnership that symbolized cooperation and shared purpose. As the days passed, the humans and aliens began to exchange knowledge and understanding. The aliens marveled at the technology and organization of the fleet. They had witnessed firsthand the precision, power, and discipline of humanity, and it left a profound impression. Scientists on both sides shared data about energy systems, environmental stabilization, and defense technologies. The humans were careful to provide guidance without imposing dominance, respecting the autonomy of the alien civilization while ensuring that their assistance had maximum effect. Trust began to grow, slowly but steadily, between the two species. For the humans, this period was also one of reflection. They had entered the alien system with urgency and tension, prepared for conflict and danger. Now, in the aftermath, they could see the impact of their actions more clearly. Entire populations had been saved, countless lives preserved, and a civilization that was on the brink of annihilation had a chance to recover and thrive. The fleet, once a shadowy secret of Earth, had demonstrated its purpose and value, not merely as a weapon but as a force capable of delivering hope and protection. The experience left every crew member with a deep sense of pride and humility. The alien inhabitants, too, began to reflect on what had occurred. They realized that the SOS they had sent, which had felt like a desperate plea, had fundamentally changed their world. In sending that signal, they had reached out across the vastness of space, and in return, they had received assistance from beings whose power and capability far exceeded anything they had imagined. This experience altered their perception of the universe and of intelligent life beyond their planet. It also left a lasting sense of gratitude and a desire to build a lasting relationship with the humans who had intervened so decisively. Governments and leaders on the alien planet began planning for the future. They studied the tactics and strategies employed by the humans, recognizing the value of learning from a civilization with such advanced capabilities. They also considered the implications of having formed contact with Earth. This encounter had not only saved them but had also opened a doorway to the wider galaxy, presenting opportunities and challenges alike. The SOS had not just summoned a fleet, it had initiated a new chapter in the history of their species. For humanity, the mission had a similar transformative effect. The fleet returned to Earth, and while their existence remained classified from the general public, those involved in the mission carried the knowledge of what they had accomplished. The intervention proved that humans could operate across interstellar distances, handle unforeseen threats, and act decisively to protect life beyond their own planet. It reinforced the importance of preparation, collaboration, and courage, and it demonstrated humanity's potential role as a responsible and powerful participant in the cosmos. The aliens, in turn, began to rebuild their civilization with newfound confidence. They implemented lessons learned during the battle, enhancing defenses, improving coordination, and strengthening communities. They also began to document the encounter with the humans, recording details of the fleet, the strategies employed, and the cooperation that had taken place. This record became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the remarkable outcome of reaching out for help and receiving it in the most extraordinary way. Across both species, The story of the SOS and the fleet became legend. Among the aliens, it was recounted as the moment when hope arrived in the form of incredible, unexpected allies. Among humans, it remained a story known only to those involved, a secret mission that had saved a civilization and proved the effectiveness of the fleet. Over time, as communications continued between the two worlds, this story helped solidify an enduring alliance, based on respect, trust, and shared experience. The SOS that had once seemed like a final, desperate measure had achieved far more than anyone could have imagined. The aftermath of the mission also included reflection on the nature of courage and responsibility. The humans realized that power alone was not enough. It was the combination of skill, intelligence, ethics, and determination that made the fleet so effective. The aliens, in witnessing this, began to reconsider their own strategies for survival. Understanding that cooperation with others and the willingness to act decisively could change the course of history, the SOS had not merely summoned help, it had sparked a lesson in the importance of action, foresight, and trust. As the alien civilization stabilized, the humans prepared to depart. There was a mutual understanding that their presence had been temporary but critical. Farewells were exchanged, expressions of gratitude were shared, and bonds of friendship were formed. The aliens had survived, and they would carry forward the memory of what had occurred to the fleet, the courage of the humans, and the hope that had been delivered when it was needed most. The humans, for their part, returned to Earth with a deeper appreciation of life, the fragility of civilizations, and the responsibilities that came with power and knowledge. The SOS that had seemed like a cry in the void had become a catalyst for an extraordinary event. It had summoned the most dangerous fleet in history, a force capable of altering the outcome of an interstellar conflict and saving an entire civilization. The events that followed would be remembered for generations, shaping the understanding of both species about cooperation, courage, and the interconnectedness of life across the galaxy. The message that had started it all, a simple plea for help, had transformed into a story of hope, resilience, and the extraordinary results that can occur when one answers a desperate call. The mission's legacy extended beyond immediate survival. The aliens began to develop new technologies inspired by human designs, creating innovations that enhanced their quality of life and defense capabilities. Cultural exchanges, though limited, began to occur, fostering mutual understanding and respect. The humans who participated carried the knowledge that their actions had far-reaching consequences, not only saving lives but also creating the potential for future collaboration, peace, and exploration. The SOS, once a symbol of fear and desperation, had become a bridge between civilizations. Ultimately, the final phase of this story is about reflection, recovery, and the enduring impact of decisive action. It shows how a single call for help, made in desperation, can ripple across space and time, bringing together species separated by light years in a shared effort to protect life. It highlights the importance of courage, cooperation, and skill, and it emphasizes the profound consequences of answering a call when it matters most. For both the humans and the aliens, the SOS and the fleet became a defining moment, a story of survival, hope, and the remarkable achievements that are possible when life is valued. An extraordinary effort is committed to preserving it. In the end, the SOS that summoned the most dangerous fleet in history did more than save a civilization. It reshaped destinies, forged alliances, and proved that courage, skill, and determination could overcome even the most overwhelming threats. It became a story of hope that would be told for generations, a story of humans reaching across the stars to preserve life, and a reminder that even in the darkest moments, help can arrive in the most unexpected and extraordinary ways. This final chapter celebrates survival, unity, and the lasting bond between two civilizations brought together by a simple, disparate signal and answered with unmatched strength and bravery.